Confinement. Have you ever been in confinement? I haven't, at least not literally, and it's that exact lack of experience that makes me perfectly qualified as a YouTuber to muse about a subject matter I know nothing about. But we don't have to be shackled in chains to be limited in life. In fact, we can be extremely skilled at limiting ourselves using our own thoughts and actions. Yes, look around and you may just find that you live in a constant state of yearning for something more, something beyond your reach that imposes onto you a misery unlike any other. Powerlessness. Powerlessness in the face of your own path, and yet, at times, this may be something you choose more than you realize. Confronting our inhibitions and impediments, and hopefully overcoming them along the way, is a theme you can likely extract from just about any story involving a person and that person doing stuff. It's the condition we all live in to some extent, although perhaps not as depressively as I like to make it sound. One way to really hammer the idea in, however, is by showcasing this struggle through the lens of a bunch of people, many of which are children, living through some kind of horrifying apocalypse. It's not unfair to say that one of the core features of apocalyptic stories is the lack of control one deals with as everything crumbles around them, followed by the internal struggle one has realizing that the only things they can possibly control are their own behaviors and reactions to that mess. Interpersonal drama sprinkled into your zombie story, for instance, adds layers to this conflict. Externally, you must now live your life confined by the undead, and the objective to mega kill as many of them as possible so that they don't kill you. But internally, you face hardship viewing all of your relationships in a new light. You accept that any and all goals you once had may never come close to existing now, and you have a lot of time to introspect and write a book about how this end of the world scenario is symbolic of your perspective on the human condition. And that's the fun part about writing, isn't it? There's no wrong answer, no perfect way to interpret something. And that's my perfect defense for when you start to think I'm pulling all of this out of my ass. Joke's on you though, I pull everything out of my ass. Speaking of which, I hope you enjoyed last year's Christmas present. I kept it warm just for you. So, Heavenly Delusion, huh? I finally pumped out that Made in Abyss video and there it was this season, Heavenly Delusion, recommended alongside that very same show. And The Promised Neverland, which is a lot more accurate of a comparison if you ask me, or probably if you ask you too. It's got a lot in common in the first two episodes at least, which is what this video is based on for clarity. The easiest way to spot the similarity is the premise wherein a bunch of school-aged kids, although they're older in this one I think, sit around in some sparkly, suspicious educational facility that shields them from the outside world where grotesque monsters rule the land. One kid gets a little curious about what can be found beyond the walls, especially when their test starts typing to them. Very distracting, I'm trying to keep my GPA up here. Teacher, this isn't even a question, the test broke! So I believe I'm safe to assume that somewhere down the line this enclosed world will collide with the outside truth, likely through some startling revelations and a plot twist. But I guess I don't actually know any of that. Maybe nobody in the school ever talks to anybody outside and then the story ends. Anyway, some other stuff at school. This girl looks like Suyu, and also is Suyu. She jumps around and everything. This kid draws weird stuff. They clearly don't teach these people anything because that certainly isn't a fish. Surprise, it's the apocalypse! The outside world is presented to us now, diverging from The Promised Neverland, where that isn't a subject until a lot later. It's like an urban exploration video for a while, kind of nice, except they're actually just looking for food. The world is gorgeous, full of neatly painted settings and detailed, vibrant props. Sometimes the animation can really impress regardless of the pacing of a scene too. There doesn't have to be a fight going on for me to appreciate their awkward walking across the landscape, attempting to not trip on rubbish while carrying all their heavy equipment. The characters have a charm to them too, but I think the biggest things about them are their expressions and facial construction style. It's not completely streamlined and looks a little retro maybe. The clothing choices are very grounded too. It doesn't force me to suspend my belief that this is the end of life as we know it, but it's also not ugly. Not too much to say about them as people as of yet though, mostly just kids acting that way or these guys trying to live, although the interactions can be amusing. Apparently something killed most people and anybody that survived was lucky if they didn't starve like these cute little fellas. Maru is trying to get somewhere. He's got a vague mission to find somebody that shares his face so that he can inject them with a mystery drug, supposedly because it'll help make the world a better place. He's accompanied by Kiriko, somebody with an unclear history themselves, acting as a sort of guide or bodyguard for Maru upon the request of some other related people, but also because Kiriko is also looking for somebody that might be dead. It's all very shrouded in mystery. I'd say the story doesn't feel like it's all that unique of an idea anymore on some levels, but it has its fair share of standout elements that surely help delineate the world apart from similar tales of walled people being terrorized by weird creatures. What's that? It's a bird! It's a plane! Oh wait, I think it's actually a bird. You can tell this is a bad thing because the colors are dark and it's surrounded by ominous clouds. Back to our Urbex heroes, a bunch of homeless people show up. I guess that's everybody though. But these ones are ugly, so you know they can't be trusted. However, interpretation is too difficult, so let's have them imply they want to rape the pair. Unfortunately for them, Kiriko has a gun, and they know not to expect rational, non-violent responses from people like these two, from the lawless generation growing up never knowing the world before the collapse. Those uncivilized, lawless youths act like animals, unlike us, the pinnacle of empathy. Wait a minute, is that even a real gun? Get him, boys! Oh shit, it's a laser beam. Oh fuck, they're gonna melt my skull. Guess this isn't the most common weapon of choice around these parts. After a super fucking smooth fight scene that really starts to show off the series' capacity for quality choreography and fast-paced animation, the hobos are held hostage, fooled into charging the battery of the laser that no longer poses a threat to them. You losers ever heard of a place called Heaven? And I ain't talking about a euphemism or the place you go after I fire this into you, like an actual place called Heaven. Nobody's sure, but something tells me there's something delusional about that place they're trying to find. And it may have something to do with tomatoes. Now, I don't know what a tomato symbolizes too much, but the motif is tossed in a lot, so it's gotta be important. In Chinese astrology, it seems they can symbolize good luck spiritually, transition into a new phase in life, and desire for beauty and prosperity. I can use the new phase in life part to cherry pick my points later, so I'll go with that for now. Back at robot school, we see that most of the kids are taught how to be monkeys. It's not just Suyu that jumps good or sees the future or doesn't die from insanely high falls. Starting to think something's real fishy about this prison. This girl, Mimi, is the one who definitely seems prophetic, and she says that somebody that looks like the kid taking the test, Tokyo, will help her escape beyond the walls. Now, for the observant among us, Tokyo looks an awful lot like Maru. Call me crazy, but I'm thinking Tokyo is the kid Maru's trying to get addicted to drugs. Tokyo thinks about this for a while, wandering the school at night, which apparently isn't something you get beaten to death for. You also don't get killed immediately for asking the school's director about the outside world. In fact, the notably not a robot old lady just answers the question to everybody's surprise. I'm sure Tokyo won't be in grave danger now, and neither will Mimi after Tokyo inadvertently snitched on her for coming up with the wrong thing in the first place. So Kitako's like 20, but they may be lying, and the collapse happened around 15 years ago. The pair comes across a shop? No, an inn. A well-kept inn. How's this not fucked up beyond repair by now? They like buy food with money, take a bath. Doesn't seem like they're getting robbed or trying to rob the place themselves. This is the most hospitable apocalypse ever. Wait, why would you even need money? There's no infrastructure. It's this hell world. Another person they're looking for, by the way, this doctor that had something to do with starting the facility, totally isn't Maru's dad or creator or something. I'm gonna look real stupid if none of this is accurate. Kitako seems to have gotten mauled at some point, and then tries to kiss the mirror. I don't know how to interpret this. Secretly a monster controlling the body? Just a monster in general? Excessively lonely? Self-obsessed? You pick. The innkeeper lady warns of a man-eater lurking at night, and when the two seem to know what she means by man-eater, the innkeeper briefly considers stabbing them before realizing it's probably safe. I suppose that's the defense plan for the place. A kitchen knife. The main characters offer to kill the monster, but lady's just not listening. She's checked out, leaves the pot boiling over, and knocks on somebody's door. Despite how foreboding that whole thing was, nobody seems to give a flying fuck, and they eat free food before the innkeeper offers unwarranted advice that siblings shouldn't have kids together, something she assumes about them because they eat with chopsticks, unlike most barbarians, so they must have been raised together with an education. Kitako explains the situation, and says they don't even like this little bastard. Angel's pleased as punch to hear that one. I'm just sitting over here waiting for this whole cozy little hotel to go up in flames. Hey Maru, are you mad about that whole I don't even like you thing? Oh no, we're poisoned. In the room over, penis head eyeball screeching bird is intimidating the innkeeper. By the way, now that this is episode 2, the opening song does a good job of expressing this lonely, creepy vibe while maintaining some beauty in this overtaken, uncertain world. And the opening visuals are incredibly stylistic with the minimal line work and heavy color contrast emphasizing scenes. There are these video game RPG images scattered around. Maybe they're in the Matrix. Something else that's cool is that the intro sequence isn't full of overt spoilers like 90% of anime. Switching over to the school again, there's this kid in a wheelchair who's dying of the rust or the Arknights thing like that. It's like that. Romance is in the air today on campus because people are questioning who's crushing on who. Girls are kissing each other. God, it was that me. And later this white hair kid is getting unsolicited nudes from Mimi. This is what happens when you let a bunch of horny as fuck teenagers grow up together in confinement and let them do whatever they want when not in class. Everybody's fucking except this kid. Then they get mad at Suyu for getting the artist kid Kona's drawing because I'm supposed to get all the drawings and I will throw Mimi on the floor to get them. Somebody's trying a little too hard to get laid. Kitako wakes up just in time to see the monster octopussing all over the glass. Give it a rest, they'll obviously hear that dude. The two go out to find the beast, meeting up with the innkeeper who appears to have actually knocked them out to protect them and possibly kill herself out here alone. I don't know. I'm starting to get impatient. When's the innkeeper going to be a bad person? This is an anime about the apocalypse. You can't fool me into thinking anybody besides the main characters have any sense of morality. Just when you stop running yourself in circles over that in your head, an extraordinarily cinematic and well-angled horror movie introduction initiates as the monster sneaks up on them in pitch darkness before a clash of color and wild perspective blows me out of the water visually, and their fight with this ostrich using Parasite the Maxim arms begins. The innkeeper cuts it short though when it looks like the two might actually kill it soon. She thinks the thing is her son because it ate him, and she's gotten it into her head that your mind is integrated with it when it eats you. This ends about as well as you'd expect, and because Maru doesn't watch too much Live Leak, he gets all pissy when Kitako jumps on the opportunity to devise a plan of survival. In reality, Kitako is suppressing the emotional reaction literally, and then Maru pulls his shit together, charging Big Bird and using some kind of life hacks to Trafalgar Law its heart out. Before they leave the inn, they ask a bunch of legitimate questions about whatever the fuck that was, followed by their rational decision to not loot the place or take the batteries they gave of the innkeeper because they belong to the innkeeper. Guys, I understand the sentiment. You're very nice during this disaster, but what are you doing? She doesn't need the batteries. Take the batteries. Kiriko is either lying or dumb because they have this whole conversation about age that Kiriko seems to get completely wrong while brushing their teeth using gutter water and then dying of dysentery. They jerry-rig a raft to cross this waterway that may or may not have crocodiles in it. It does. Tomato symbolism keeps getting shoved down my throat. I really only tolerate tomatoes on a sandwich, so I'm getting sick of this. Maybe they symbolize God in heaven or something. Somebody suggested that to me. I don't remember why. There's an obvious theme about binary opposition between perceiving heaven and hell subjectively somewhere in there. Oh no, my ball! It went over to the teachers only door. It'd be such a shame if I just so happened to oopsie whoopsie open the door and accidentally see inside. After the monkey boy falls, as mentioned earlier, Mimi says something else will fall, gazing up at the roof, which has shapes reminiscent of that really great Chicken Little movie. Quick, back away from the boarding school. There's a big old farm with active workers that'll shoot you where you stand upon trespassing. God, I love freedom. Guess all these big organizations are just like the corpos of past decades, and also we're out of leads again. Is what I would have said, but the farmers decide to invite them in, showing off their little village founded by a family hoping to revitalize their way of life and living off the land as a commune. Wow, there are a ton of really sweet people in this apocalypse so far. I am very unaccustomed to this. Or we're about to get cannibalized by a pack of inbred cultists. Not looking that way though, these dudes just kind of smoke a bunch of pot and dick around. One of them recognizes Kiriko as a famous kart racer from Asakusa that reportedly left the scene for good after killing their brother during a race. This may really be Kiriko based on the flustered response. It would make sense to hide that from a super fan. I don't want people knowing where I am. You might be smelly freaks! No offense. More importantly, a box at the farm is marked with the same icon on their laser blaster. Maybe this can be a hint for finding heaven. They jump on a supply vessel back to Tokyo owned by the farm to find out more about Maru's background. While they sit around doing nothing, Maru confesses that he's grown both in his heart and in his pants for Kiriko. Thinking now that this whole injection mission might be a fucking dumb idea and maybe it's more fun to help Kiriko do odd jobs and live on the marijuana plantation. Kiriko's not down for that, and it may have something to do with the next thing Maru's informed about. Kiriko's got the body of a girl but the brain of a boy. Seems pretty clear the way it's described. This seems like it's not just a Japanese pronouns being a quirky thing for some characters or strictly thematic in developing a character's overall purpose and narrative thing. Kiriko really just says all that. So either Kiriko is self-identifying as trans or that's literally not the same brain originally in there, which isn't impossible, let's be real. Either way, it fits my own themes, but I'm not looking forward to the possibility that this is the only point of contention the Western world's discourse devolves into, disregarding any other possibly interesting train of thought about this world. Just let people think what they want about the cartoon. I don't have the answers. I'm trapped in my own reality. You see, one where I am limited by my entire subjective experience on existence, as are you, as is everybody. So here we are, confined. Kiriko and Maru are confined to their hell, oppressed by the omnipresent fear of assault by monsters or marauders. While not alone without exception, the two wander this path ultimately shared only between them, ever searching for a place one might consider heaven in this post-collapse dystopia. Is there even more out there? Or is that a delusion that keeps us confined to this journey? How about you, school children? Confined by walls, no question, but what awaits you beyond heaven's gates? An endless cycle of learning, perhaps? The grass is always greener on the other side, and for them, heaven may just be something they are taking for granted. Or worse, this may not be heaven at all. This world traps you, and thus, inside, you are trapped, given just enough rope to pull you along, but who knows for how long? Maybe when these worlds collide, the walls can be deconstructed, a dismantling that gives rise to a new age, a transition into greater things full of beauty and prosperity. But it's hard to say whether the tomato you eat will be ripe or rotten when you take a bite blindfolded. Maybe it's love that confines us, fickle, unrequited, a steady longing to change, to feel completed when in reality, you may never feel whole until you look in the mirror and love what you see. But look too hard, and you may become confined within your own mind, a body that says you are one thing, but a mind that searches for its own definition beyond these physical constraints. Is your identity really so apparent? Why does the world get to decide that for you? Trapped inside the belly of the whale. Did your soul integrate, or will others never realize you're gone for good? Goodbye, wanderer. I'll see you in heaven, or perhaps it'll be hell.